Sweet the whispers in your ear whenever ember wanders near.
Yeah, Asmongold put out a potato can video. That's what I wanted to look at. Asmongold put something out today. He put something out earlier today. He did a potato camp video, which means it's something serious. It's not something he just did on stream. It's something that he felt was important and wanted to speak directly about off stream without chat. So that's what I wanted to look at. It's titled "This Was Never Going to Last." I suspicion, I've not watched this. I'm going to hazard a guess it's going to be about games going full digital, and that game, I'm thinking maybe it's gaming about games going digital and no longer being physical copies. That is my suspicion. I could be dead wrong. He may be talking about something else entirely, but that's what I feel like he's going to be talking about. So let's take a look and see what is so important that Asmongold busted out the potato can.
Hi guys, it's me again. Today we're going to talk about the video game layoffs. Xbox did over 3,000 layoffs yesterday, and I think this is the beginning of the end.
Wait, 3,000? Is he talking total through fiscal year 2027? Because I thought they only did 1,600 yesterday, or on Monday. Didn't they say they only did 1,600 for Bloody Monday? And then there's going to be a further 1,600 through fiscal year 2027. Yeah, so it's like total of 3,200, 1,600 immediately, another 1,600 spread out across the next year. Yeah, 32 total, 1,600 on Monday. Okay. Angry Joe said 34. I trust what Angry Joe says about as far as I can throw him, and given Angry Joe in modern day, I can't throw him very far. I do not trust a goddamn thing Angry Joe says anymore. Like, Xbox themselves, in her tweet that we read off on Monday, said 32 total, 1,600 immediately on Monday, 1,600 over the course of the next year through fiscal year 2027. That's what the CEO of Xbox said.
And really, if you look at especially their staffing before COVID and now, it's pretty obvious that they kind of overhired. But at the same time, I think that we are seeing a very big recalibration. I think that for anybody who had a brain or a set of eyes, this was kind of obvious that it was happening. You can't have a $100 million studio that releases a video game and the game gets 3,000 concurrent players. It's just really not... you're just not making enough money there, right? It's just that.
Yeah, and to his point, the game studios that there was 4 of them that they're basically kicking them to go independent. I saw a clip as we looked at the games that they made. All of these studios, the biggest player count these studios ever got from a game was 2,000 or 3,000 players. Some of these game studios, the highest player count they ever got was maybe a couple of hundred. That was their highest player count. So all 4 of these studios that Xbox is basically cutting them loose so they can go independent, they never made anything that earned them money. And they've been around for years, and they've never made Xbox any money whatsoever. That's been a ton of a running thing. Is they kept around because they were putting out DEI products, because one of them was South of Midnight, so is the DEI product. Yeah, they at least half of these game studios they got kicked out literally failed the Bonnie Blue metric. That's how bad it is. At least 2, possibly 3 of these studios came under the Bonnie Blue metric in terms of player count. That's how bad they were. So it's they cost them how many millions of dollars over the years, and they made them nothing back. And thank you for the prime, Andrea.
that simple. So this is what's happened, I think, for quite a while, and people have been trying to, I guess, like, warn people, hey, look, this isn't working, these games aren't working. And today I just woke up, I didn't stream today because I wanted to lay in bed all day, but I was laying in bed and I was reading Twitter. That's usually what I do for stream research, and I saw that there's another company, id Software, I think it's ID or id, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it's the people that made Doom the Dark Ages. Also, they're doing huge layoffs, and
id Software lost like 60. If I'm remembering, I saw the tweet. I think they lost 64 people. So they laid off 64 people, and before that, they had a total employee count of under 100. id Software laid off like 3/4 of their work staff. That's how bad this is. 3/4 of id Software gone, fired. Go put the fries in the back. Like, id Software may be dead now. They may have just, this may be the start of completely dissolving id Software. Didn't they make the first Doom with like 25 people? I don't know. I legit don't know. But they're down to about that many now.
people are like, oh my god, this is such a shock. I said, really? Are you sure it's a shock to you? Look at the amount, like, I bet the pre-orders for the expansion for the game that come out today, like, nobody gives a shit. The pre-orders are probably, like, really low. And then the game launched to, like, a, 30,000 player audience on Steam. And I know somebody's gonna...
Let's, hang on. We'll do quick research. Doom Dark Ages. I can spell. I truly can. Oh my god. Doom the Dark Ages. Let's look at their let's look at the chart. Yeah, all-time peak 31,000. All time 31,000. And this was like a little bit over a year ago. And look how quickly it went down. From launch, 1 month after launch, it was down to 8,000 players. And it just kept getting lower. Look at that. Look at this. Launched in April, by October, it was under 1,000 players. By October. We're seeing a slight bump here. This is probably for the expansion that he was just mentioning. That as Will was mentioning, that there was the expansion. So we're seeing the bump, but it's only up to 13,000. Like, from everything I've heard. Oh god, house guest, oh god, house guest, thank you for the dono. Thank you so very much for the dono, house guest. Thank you. Oh my god, that just like, oh blah. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Oh god, where was I? Yeah, like, Doom the Dark Ace. It was not well received. Like, and every review I saw of Doom the Dark Ages when it launched, people didn't like it. They said it was several steps backwards from Doom. From, like, Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, Doom Eternal, when it came out, people loved it. People absolutely loved Doom and Doom Eternal. And, like, that did fantastic. And then Doom the Dark Ages came out, and everybody was just like, this ain't it, fam. And it was not well received. And it shows. And so when you have employees doing that, when you have employees making a game like this that is not making the money, how many millions of dollars went into the development of Doom Dark Ages, and they only made back a fraction of the amount of money that they put into it. That is an unsustainable business model.
To say, oh, but Game Pass, you can play it on Game Pass.
Yeah,
you can play Expedition 33 and Stalker 2 on Game Pass too. It doesn't mean that a lot of people didn't still buy it on the fucking PC. So the reality is on Steam, I mean to say. So the reality is that yes, I do think this is a good metric, and I every time that there's one of these games that comes out and they're like, oh well, no, this isn't a good way to look at it or whatever, it just seems to be proven right. sooner or later, but one way or another,
Yep.
the outcome is the same. So
Yep.
where does this really lead us? Where are we going? Where is the video game industry going? I want to talk about it on a macro level, on an economic level, for marketing, for on like mid-level games, small games, etc., right? So I think that basically, if you want to take big picture, and then we can kind of distill down from that, the first thing that I think that a lot of these companies are trying to do is they're trying to become platforms. They don't necessarily want to be, I'm talking about Sony and Xbox primarily, and there's also going to be large PC companies that are going to be doing things that are similar to this, such as Epic Games with Fortnite. What they're really trying to do is they're trying to capitalize on being an ecosystem that people use their software and their hardware ecosystems in order to enable them to take a piece out of the pie of Fortnite transaction fees, right? And same as Roblox or anything else. Why would they want to go and do all of this other crazy, put all this work into everything whenever all they need to do is just make something that people can buy, and then they can coast off of Genshin Impact waifu sales forever. So that's, I think, the direction that they're trying to go in, and that's the reason why they're trying to move all of these studios off of being first platform and into being third platform. It's because basically now, if you're the captain, you've got to go down with your ship, and if it sure seems like the way that things are going, there's a lot of sinking ships. I mean, I saw some of these games. Like, there was this one game, they canceled the studio, right? Or they had it go independent, okay? This is like, okay, we're going to send you on a...
By the way, independent is basically code for the studio shutting down. Because the only reason why any of these studios were even maintained in the first place, the 4 studios that Xbox went independent with, they went independent because they were not making any money, which means on their own, independently, they're not going to make any money. So it's code work. We're letting them do their own thing now, and their own thing is going to be closing the doors and going and filling out the McDonald's application. That's what we're getting, cutting them loose to be independent. Like they said, like, oh, we're going to try and find someone that can buy the studio. And then they're not going to find anybody by the studio. They're just going to come loose to say, okay, you're an independent studio now. They're not going to be able to make a game because the only reason why they were able to make the dog shit games that they made in the first place is because they had the financial support of Xbox. If they, without the financial support of Xbox, they're not going to be able to make anything.
No physical disc. PlayStation is just a PC permalock to PlayStation Network. At that point, just get a decent gaming PC.
Well, it's like Asmund said, like, you're still gonna have, like, they're still doing it from a platform perspective. There's still, like, Sony is, for now, still doing PlayStation exclusives. Xbox, not so much. PlayStation is still doing exclusives. Like, there is the Wolverine exclusive. Like, the Wolverine game is going to be exclusive to Sony. As of now, this may have changed, of course. As of now, the Wolverine game is not going to be available on another platform. I will not be able to play it via Steam. I would only be able to play it through PlayStation. Will that change? I don't know. It's like there have been plenty of incidents in the past where they watch a game on a console and say this is going to be a console exclusive, and then a year later they launch it for general use and you'd find it on the Steam store. Are they going to do that again? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see unless someone jailbreaks it. I don't know if anybody's going to jailbreak it or not. And if they do, I don't know what Sony might do. I wouldn't want to risk that. But is Marvel Spider-Man 3 is going to be PlayStation? Oh, yeah. Like, Sony has said that they are going to be doing a lot more exclusive games on their platform to basically try, because console sales and console games have deteriorated as of late because nobody is using consoles anymore. People are all on PC. It's better to get it from the Steam store, especially because the return policy is so much better. So if you buy a shitty game on Steam and you only play it for 2 hours, you can say, this sucks, I'm returning it, and you can get your money back. So we're the console market share, I feel, has been decreasing and more people are going the PC route. Now, I don't know, I haven't seen any data. If there's data out there, it may prove me completely fucking wrong. I have no clue. My opinion when it comes to console, I don't like playing on console because of the online subscription stacked on top of you already paying for the game. If I'm buying a game, I don't want to also have to pay for a $20 or $30 per month subscription just to play that game online as it's intended to be played. I refuse to do that because that is a waste of my money. When generally speaking, I can buy the game on PC, I can play it online as it's intended, and I'm not spending any extra money on some kind of monthly subscription to do it. That's why I don't play on console. I've not played on console for years. Single player games like that were. Yeah, here's the problem. A lot of single player games now are live service games. They require the online component. And some of them may require you have that subscription to PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live, even if it's only a single player game, depending upon which games you get. Don't play those then? Sure, you could go with that. But from a sheer principled standpoint, I'm not going to play on console if I want to do any online gaming and then have to pay 20 to 30 bucks a month to play online game on top of the game I've already purchased. That is the primary reasons. Like, it's a matter of fucking principle. Like, this is just milking the players for more money just to be able to play the game as the game was intended to be played, and I disagree with that vehemently.
We're going to send you out on a life raft into the North Sea. And no, we're not killing you. You can go out there. I want you to go to the North Pole
Yep,
and meet Santa
there it
Claus.
is.
I wonder what's going to happen, right? And so this company, they made a video game, and it was about making pottery, and it was like a Mario Party
I saw him show
pottery.
this.
It was the most Reddit fucking game I've ever
Yep.
heard of in my life. And I remember
It was I saw his clip of it. It was you make pottery and then you have the pottery battle. It was almost like pottery Pokemon or pottery Beyblade. It looks so fucking stupid. You literally like craft a piece of pottery and then you battle it against other pottery. That was the game. It looks so stupid.
watching it and thinking to myself, like, does anybody give a fuck about this? And I looked at the Steam chart, and it sure seems like they didn't. There's like 200 people that played the game. So how is it that you can make a video game that, like, if you were to make a Venn diagram between people that obsessively collect Funko Pops and people that like this video game, you'd have a circle, and you think this is going to massively sell and it's going to keep your studio afloat? And I understand that people think that, and there's a lot of blame. I think this is unfair. There's a lot of blame towards Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer used to be the guy in charge of Xbox. Well,
Seen a
guess
lot of
what?
people
I'm sure
people
Phil
blaming
Spencer
it.
didn't tell them, no, guys, it's great for you to make $3 million whenever you spend $50 million. Oh no, there are no performance expectations. We just want you to make video games that nobody likes. This is what we want. We want you to take your remember your 6th grade theater project idea? Well, we want you to make that a video game. I don't think Phil Spencer was saying that, but apparently that's what a lot of these companies were hearing. And so you have all these companies that are making these games for nobody. Nobody gives a shit. And then now you have, and I think that there is a lot of institutional ideological capture. I talk about this a lot, and that's because I think it's a much bigger threat and a much bigger problem than you guys might imagine. So this is a good example, right?
Thank you,
So you
Soren.
have these video game companies that are talking about, oh, well, we won these awards. Well, then you're winning the awards from the people that are benefiting from the access journalism into your fucking
Yep.
video games, and then
Yep.
they give it positive reviews, and then after that, you give them credibility, and then you give them, like, privileges, and then they give your video game award. And so it's like the most embarrassing, hipster, liberal version of the human centipede.
And this is not only true with the video game industry. This is basically true with the entertainment industry. When it comes to awards, none of it matters. Throughout the entirety of the entertainment industry, gaming industry awards means nothing. TV, Emmy awards means nothing. Oscars means nothing. It is literally just an elitist circle jerk to basically pat themselves on the back and say, oh, I'm so wonderful, aren't I? Yes, yes, I am. I am indeed so very wonderful. And that's all it is. Nobody get, like, the actual paying customers don't care. None of the paying customers care. The award ceremony shows are at their lowest viewing points ever. Like with the Oscars, the hot. Do you guys remember what the highest viewed Oscar award ceremony was in the last several years? What what was that? Which Oscar awards show had the highest views in like the last 10 years? The slap. The one where Will Smith got on stage and slapped the fuck out of Chris Rock live on the broadcast. That was the highest viewed Oscars award show within like the last 10 years. Nobody gives a fuck about it anymore. Nobody cares. Same thing with the Emmys for TV shows. Same thing with the Grammys for music. Same thing with the gaming awards. Nobody fucking cares because none of it matters. Because the awards are not given because because the paying customers like them en masse. The awards are given because the elites are basically slapping themselves on the back and saying, we're doing a fantastic job. The metric to determine if anything is successful in all of entertainment these days is money. That is the defining factor for any metric of success in all of entertainment. Because that's, in the end, what counts. Awards mean fucking nothing. People don't trust awards. What they trust is, okay, is this game fun? Is this movie entertaining? Is this TV show entertaining enough that it has legs to do multiple seasons and still retain entertaining? That's the metric. It's money. That's it. Hands down.
That you can ever, it's the human centipede, but it's rainbow colored, okay? So, guess what? I don't think a lot of people like
same
that.
with the streamer
you
awards.
have effectively capitalism that's been replaced by credentialism. And the problem is the credentials are fake, but the numbers, the money is still real. And that's the problem, is that you can give out as many special awards and you have these, I read this, I'm gonna get triggered, is that there is an IGN article talking about, oh my God, oh no, these video games that won all of these awards. They won all the awards and they're losing. Yes, because nobody gives a fuck what the awards are. You invented these awards, you invented criteria, you invented these credentials, and you built an entire ecosystem, and it's nothing. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. But these people think that they can build basically a, elaborate tapestry of fake credentials that they can insulate themselves from the effects of the accountability of capitalism. That's what's happening. And now the chickens have come home to roost. And it's a pecking party. And I'm happy to see it. I'm very happy to see it. I'm so glad all these nasty, retarded, useless, shitty fucking devs. And also, by the way, I understand people get sometimes triggered whenever I say stuff like that. They say, well, you can't say that because there's a lot of actually good devs and they're following bad decisions. I think that you're definitely right to some extent, but I don't think that you're right to as big of an extent as you think you are.
There is this current mental state in the gaming space where people basically think that the devs are wholly under the boot of the parent company, and that when a game dev puts out a bad game, they're so quick to say, well, this couldn't possibly be the dev's fault. The parent company, in this case Xbox, surely must have basically just had a massive amount of influence and told them, you need to do this, and taken away their entire autonomy. That's been the door-riding excuse right now for all the fanboys that are trying to basically say why a game failed, or why a studio is failing, or why a studio is getting shut down. They're always defaulting to, well, surely the parents' company influenced them or told them they had to do this, and that's what actually killed the game, is the parent company said, you have to DEI the crap out of it, And they're ignoring the fact that the studio themselves were probably DEI to fuck, or probably bridged out to fuck, and they wanted to make this game. It's not like Xbox came to these devs and said, hey, you're going to make this game. It's actually the reverse. The devs go to Xbox and say, hey, we have an idea for a game we want to make. Here's the game that we want to make. And Xbox either gives them the go ahead or says, no, we're not going to do this. Shut it down. So what's truly happening is the reverse of what people erroneously think is happening whenever one of these games fails. Because it's all about excuses. Because it's like, okay, South to Midnight. South to Midnight, people were like, the wokies were going like, oh yeah, this is great. It's black representation. It's taking place in the South. This is going to be amazing. We're getting our DEI representation. She looks just like me. And then the game completely flopped. And then you're going to have, the game completely died. And you're going to have the apologists coming and going, well, surely Xbox came down and said, you have to put this in. You have to put that in because of our mandate. And pretending like it wasn't the devs that fucked up their own game, that it was actually the parent company that forced these changes onto them, and that's what resulted in the failure. Kind of like with Rocksteady when they did Kill the Justice League. They undoubtedly plenty of people were saying like, oh, the parent company obviously, came down, like whoever, was distributing came down and told Rocksteady, you have to put this plethora of book shit and you have to treat Batman like shit in this game. And so obviously Rocksteady is not at fault here. It's the people above that were making decisions, and it's all bullshit. It's all complete bullshit. These devs are making the majority of their choices. Even when it comes to influences like Sweet Baby Inc., which these devs bring in on their own, it's not like the parent companies are bringing in Sweet Baby Inc. No, the devs are bringing in Sweet Baby Inc. Even that is only Sweet Baby Inc. absolutely can influence how bad a game is, and they do influence how bad a game is, but there's still the devs. The devs still have their own autonomy. They are making the decisions. They're going, yeah, we definitely want to have that in. And so they make the decision to have the DEI and the woke shit in there, and it kills their game. And so then the excuses start flying, like, oh, it's not their fault, it's their fault. It's not their fault, it's their fault. Stuff like that. And it's all just one giant fucking circle jerk.
I think that just like in every other job, in every other place, there are the 80-20 Pareto principle where 20% of people do 80% of the work. So when 80% of the people get fired, usually not a lot changes. So that's what I think happened with Twitter, and I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of these companies too, is that you've had these massive overhiring pushes. You've had every single developer and every single game designer that now thinks that they are the next misunderstood, troubled artist, Neil Druckmann, which is really just a pale imitation of Hideo Kojima, right? The GOAT. And so, you have these people that think that they're actually, one step away from directing a Netflix series that has 8 seasons like Game of Thrones. These pathetic failed theater kids is basically what I'm trying to say. And they're insufferable. The stories are insufferable. And the reason why they're so insufferable is because their characters are self-inserts and nobody likes them. That's the reason why. That's the same reason why they're so defensive over the characters. It's because, oh, you hate our characters? Well, wait a minute. I based this character on myself. I'm sorry, but I play video games to get away from people like Tosh and Dragon Age. I don't want to have to... that's the reason why I'm playing games. I have to deal with people like you in real life. I go to the grocery store, I see somebody like that, right? And it's like, oh no, right? You've got to deal with this person or listen to them or something like that. And so this is this is supposed to be an escape. This is supposed to be like your willing suspense of disbelief, right? You want to leave, you want to have immersion, you want to be immersed in another world. Whenever you play these video games and you see these very clearly, I think, ideologically driven decisions that they make, what you see happening is that, it's like it destroys that willing suspension of disbelief because you're looking at it and you see it right then at that moment and you're like, wait a minute, I'm actually just playing something that's a piece of propaganda. This is in the game because of the artist's viewpoint or something like that, and it doesn't really fit inside of the story. in an organic way. And I think that's one of the things that people are kind of getting tired of, but I actually don't think that that's the main picture. I think the reality is that, Asha Sharma, who's the new head of Xbox, who I think she's great. I do. I think she's amazing. She said that there was 14 different layers of management inside of Xbox in order to make a decision.
And that, like I was mentioning about this, where when we went through her tweet, that is a problem. Because I remember seeing something in regards to, I think it was Starfield. When Bethesda was making Starfield, I think there was a dev or coder or something on Starfield that basically, to make a small minor change in the code, they had to basically send requests off, and it would have to go through like 6 or 7 fucking people, and would take like days for the approval to make this one tiny little change in the code that would literally take like 5 minutes, and they were waiting days on the approval while they played a game of telephone for this approval before they were finally able to make the change to the code. And and like with the game of telephone, shit's gonna get misinterpreted. If you send a request to one person, and then that person sends the request off to another person, and that person sends the request off to another person, the message is going to get lost in some way. And so when it finally gets back to the original coder that's wanting to do this change, who knows what the hell they're going to be getting back. And it's like this level of bloat not only costs money, costs time, also can cause problems in the development of the game itself, in how the game comes out in the end.
I want to contextualize this, okay? And I want to contextualize it. Let's go back to 1999. Very good year. The year that Office Space came out. So inside of that movie that was supposed to be a parody of corporate office American culture, the amount of bosses that the guy had to turn in his TPS reports was 7 or 8. And so now Xbox, like 25, 27 years later, they are now twice.
But by the way, how ironic that he brings up Office Space as a parallel. That's 2 for 2 on Mike Judge. Mike Judge made 2 movies that accurately predicted the future. He made Office Space talking about corporate bloat and how it's like it's so completely just fucked that you're going through 50 million people just for one simple little thing that you should only have one boss for. And then you've got Idiocracy with the level of stupidity that is on the rise throughout the entire planet. So, like, Mike Judge is like 2 for fucking 2 when it comes to his movies predicting the future. That's a pretty good track record.
Like 25, 27 years later, they are now twice as ridiculous as a hyperbole in 1999. That's how bad it is, okay? So it's massive overstaffing, total bureaucratic capture. Everybody is completely, afraid of doing anything. You have accountability diffusion. So, well, it's nobody's fault because it's everybody's fault. Well, you know what the problem with
Better yet, the toxic positivity. I don't know if he's going to be bringing that up, but the whole thing of toxic positivity in the gaming space, where you do a shit job and your boss says, oh yeah, that's wonderful, that's amazing, keep doing that. And you basically just keep creating shit over and over again because you don't have anyone to tell you, that's dog shit, put that in the garbage and start over from scratch. And if you can't get it right, you're going to be fucking fired. If you actually had people in these studios with these devs that actually gave them the hard truths that what they just did was shit, that they should be ashamed of it, garbage it, and start all over, instead of these bosses that are looking at shit and going, oh my god, this is amazing, yes, we're gonna put this in right away, keep doing that. That is a factor that might actually also address this problem.
That is, when that happens enough times, I guess everybody has to get fired. And you know what? Not a moment too soon. Because the fact is that if this one thing that's taught us anything, is that a lot of these developers, like smaller teams, smaller devs, they can really cook. They can make really good games now. And they don't need the same level of tools. They don't need a Hollywood actor that has a box around him, pretending to be a Funko Pop cube. Whoa, look at me, I'm a Jello cube. Like, this is the kind of shit that nobody fucking needs. Nobody needs it. And
Yep.
Xbox is realizing that nobody wants it either. And so anyway, what's happened, I think, that is that you've had this institutional bloat, this attempt at trying to make the video game industry mirror the movies and then music and I think also TV industry. And the reason why I think this is happening, maybe I'm being such an asshole. Actually, I know I am. It's just been 12 minutes of me being an asshole so far. And so, but like, I think that all of these people that are working at these companies want to be celebrities. I think that they want to be seen as, like, you know, Christopher Nolan, like Guillermo del Toro, right? These visionary.
I'm not 100%. He's right in that these game developers want to be, basically, they want to be seen as rock stars. I don't know if I'm not necessarily sure I agree that they want to basically be like the next Christopher Nolan, the next Ridley Scott, the next George Lucas, like stuff like that. I'm not sure if I agree with that parallel, but without questions, they want to be Kojima. It would be far more accurate in terms of the gaming space. They want to be the video game developer superstars. They want to basically have that accolade and then have have people looking at them with stars in their eyes whenever they come onto a project and go, "Oh, we're saved. We've got the superstar here." Yeah, absolutely. That is what they want to do.
Directors, these visionary writers, these people that are involved, because like there's a mystique around Hollywood. There's a mystique around, you know, like acting and like music and these record companies, right? And like they want to be part of that, but they're just a bunch of fucking nerds. They're just a bunch of fucking nerds, and their theater projects weren't even good enough to get them accepted into high school, into a college, right? And so now they have their second chance, and they're making a video game, and unfortunately, that video game is called Mixtape. And so the problem is that you have a lot of these people that are making games that nobody is interested in for audiences that don't exist. And on top of that, you have the companies that are buying them have so many levels of bureaucratic overhead that there's no way that they can possibly function to make enough money unless they make their target audience everybody. Oh, well, if we make as many copies as we sell as many copies as Fortnite does, or I guess Fortnite's free, you could use any other Black Myth Wukong, 20 million copies. Sure. Well, if every single person in China buys my bullshit, I'm going to be a billionaire. But I don't think they're going to buy it. So the problem is that you effectively make the amount of mouths you have to feed so big that you have a net that you need to use that's so wide that the fish slip through the holes. That's what's happened, and everybody, and you pull it up. Where's all the fish? Wait, you're telling me there's only 3,190 concurrent fish? I think we're gonna starve. And you know what? They sure are. And as I said, deserved. Completely fucking deserved. You
Absolutely
made garbage.
Deserved.
You created institutional, like ideological capture. You allowed that to be part of your actual company, identity. You didn't listen to the players. You have people that are openly antagonistic towards their audiences on Twitter. I mean, just basically did everything wrong. And on top, and again, you can do everything wrong as long as the games are good. But the problem is that there is no longer the idea of the high quality, small slice, great game that knows its audience. I'm thinking of games like, for example, Space Marine 2, okay? Something like that.
There we go.
It's a very, very simple game. It has a very, very defined audience. That was me, by the way. Amazing game. I can't wait to play the third one. But on top of that, you have other games that just really don't hit that mark. And they're trying to appeal to everybody. They're trying to be for everyone. Like Helldivers is another great example where it's like they had an ideal, they had a vision, they executed the ideal, they executed the vision. Now, you can be unhappy about the way that they've managed the live service. You can be unhappy about the PlayStation thing. I know I was. But fundamentally, I think that the real problem with all this is that there is a disconnect between the players and the developers, and the developers are no longer part of the same class that the players are. And more importantly, neither is the executive team. And I want to say one of the silver linings for any of the people that are very pro-dev on this is that if you look at the amount of people that have been fired inside of Xbox and you look at the positions that were let go, there were a lot of chiefs that got let go. And I think that's a really great thing. We need a lot less chiefs. There are too many decision makers, and also, like, again, if you're a captain's supposed to go down with his ship, right? So if you're the one that makes the call, you need to be the one that's falling on your sword. That's the way I see it. And hey, Xbox has given you a little push, but whatever it takes to get there, I'm happy about it. So I hope that this is the new direction of these studios. I think that, again, let natural selection take.
I'm going to disagree with Asm. Because I don't think, even with cutting things to the bone like this, I'm still not sold that corporation studios like Xbox and PlayStation are still going to do a turnaround. Because you're still going to have the underlining problem that is not been addressed, and that is the DEI and bridge. The DEI, bridge, SBI is still going to be a part of these corporate studios like Xbox and PlayStation, and that is going to trickle down to their studios making their gains. That issue, like this plethora of firing that just occurred is for budgetary reasons. It's still not. I still don't think it's going to get to the underlying rot that is causing these problems in the first place. Too many cooks in the kitchen. That's absolutely an issue there. They're addressing that with the total 3,200 people that they're firing over the next year. That absolutely is an issue. But the DEI and bridge is still there. You're still going to have the ideologies crammed into their gains, where they're going to prioritize ideology over making money. That is still going to be there, and that core underlying rot is still going to kill their gains. And until they figure this the fuck out and get rid of it and actually make games for gamers again, they're still going to fail. And it's why I still firmly believe that the indie studios keep it going. Indie studios have been going like fucking gangbusters lately. We have been seeing massive success after massive success with independent studios. They need to keep going. Do not slow down, because people are loving the stuff that these indies are putting out. Look at Mecha Chameleon. Mecha Chameleon was what? Was that like 1 or 2 people that did Mecha Chameleon? And it sold how many millions of copies and is one of the most popular games to play right now? This is still the time of the indie studios. Do not think that, game's over, Xbox is cutting things to the bone. They're making a change. No, they're not. They're making a personnel change. They're not making an ideological change. SBI, DEI is still there. Bridge is still there. SBI is still going to be heavily influencing it. The content, the amount of people is changing. The type of content is not. At least not yet. And so, that's something that I disagree with Asma. We're going to see a big improvement now that this is happening. I'm not sold. Because that is still present. That is still there. And until that goes away, you're still going to get the same damn thing over and over and over again.
Its course. Have the developers that are actually really great, that are well connected, that know how to make a good game. I'm sure they'll probably find jobs. It's sad that they lost their job. It sucks. But at the end of the day, I think this happens in every industry, especially as a recalibration from such a large, economic boom, such as COVID. Is that I think that these recalibrations happen regularly, whether it's because of new technology, new research, or some other type of change in consumer habits. Whatever the reason is, this is not uncommon. And it's not a crime against humanity that a video game studio has layoffs. I hate how, every other company in the world has layoffs all the time.
Yep.
John Deere has layoffs constantly. Walmart has layoffs all the time. You
Yep.
know, I went to Panda Express and they have an AI doing the fucking the drive-through, right? Which is, I've always thought that's a good thing, because you go to Panda Express, it's literally double fake advertising. They don't sell pandas and it's never fast. But the point is that that's one person's job that doesn't exist anymore, and it's going to keep happening. And so when I see this happen with video game development, I think to myself, well, it's more of the same. This is what's going to happen.
Notice how
It's
everyone
not
who's
anything
happy
unique.
about this completely forgot about the Xbox price hike announcement 2 weeks ago, which Microsoft themselves caused with data centers.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That's I think part of that may be also them trying to recoup money that they've been losing. Like, we are going to be seeing price hikes in numerous ways with Xbox because of like how much money they've lost. They're starting on the path to recouping, and cutting like 3,200 jobs is just only a start. They're going to need to take other measures to recoup the millions upon millions of dollars of loss that they've had over the last umpteen years.
I think obviously it sucks if people lose their jobs, but you've got to expect it, especially when you make something that ultimately doesn't make money. So I think we can expect to see a lot more of this. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. And I think at the end of the day, in the same way that, you know, when a whale dies in the ocean, there's something that's called a whale fell.
Okay, you're saying id Software didn't deserve the layoffs, laying off half the studio because they're great and make great games. Not all of them were useless. I think it's a bad move. Asmongold wasn't saying that the layoffs at id Software were a good thing. He wasn't saying like, oh, Doom was dog shit, so of course they deserve to get laid off. Doom Dark Ages underperformed. It certainly did underperform, but I don't think he was saying they deserve to be laid off. What the point is he is making is when Xbox as a whole got into such a horrid state, they had to make choices and they had to start laying off people. Look at like who was it? The student, like they've done this before for studios that produce great games. Look at, I forget the name of the studio. Look at the studio that produced the game Hi-Fi Rush. Okay, the studio that made Hi-Fi Rush, which was a lauded game. People absolutely loved Hi-Fi Rush. They thought it was a fantastic game. People loved it. The sound design, I think they actually won an award for sound design. You take that as you wish. But and what happened? Like, shortly after Hi-Fi Rush won their award for sound design or whatever it was for, like a month or two later, Xbox shut it down. They shut down the entire studio. Obviously, this studio didn't deserve it because they just Tango Gameworks. Thank you. Tango Gameworks, like obviously Tango Gameworks didn't deserve to be shuttered because they just put out a very popular and successful game. But in a corporate, from a corporate standpoint, I don't know what corporate decision this was, but the corporate decision was to shutter Tango Gameworks Studios. So I don't think that Asmon was applauding id losing 3/4 of its staff. I think he's just pointing out that basically with Xbox as a whole failing, with the entire company failing, they had to make tough calls, and id Software unfortunately got caught up in it. They may not necessarily have deserved it. While Doom was not like as well received as say what Dark Ages was not as well received as Doom and Doom Eternal, it didn't do terribly. It wasn't a bomb, but it did underperform. Maybe that was part of the decision for them to basically slash through id Software. Maybe id Software itself was also suffering from the bloat that we're discussing. Maybe they had managers stacked on top of managers and they had too many cooks in the kitchen and it was causing unnecessary bloat, and slashing it by 3/4. Maybe that's going to get it down to a more lean, manageable level where they can actually make good games. They don't have to go through multiple layers just to write one line of fucking code. And who knows, this may end up being a positive for id Software where they can get back on track and actually start putting out some good games. So, bear in mind, he wasn't like applauding it. He was just basically stating, like, this is the reality of business. You may not have to like it. No one's asking you to like it, but this is the reality of business, is that, they would, when they need to fire people because the company's not making money, people that may not necessarily deserve to get fired may end up being fired because they're doing it so the company itself will survive. That's it.
And it creates an entire ecology around the dead whale, and other life and other types of life forms emerge from it, and that is the circle of life. And I just hope that with some of these big companies, you will have some whale fells, and out of that we'll get a couple more Expedition 33s, because those people came straight out of Ubisoft. So I'm really, really hoping that's what happens, and I wanted to make a video and talk about it, because I really think that it's very odd. It's like the, like the Fibonacci spiral, right? It's weird how, things in nature also apply to human psychology, human behavior, human, like economics and everything, in the same way that spiral applies to more and more and more things, doesn't it? And so the more things change, the more they stay the same. I'm curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are on all this topic, and kind of what you guys think, but I think this is a really great direction for the video game industry to go in, and I think that hopefully now we can have a calibration towards smaller teams, more defined visions, and also things that are not insulated by PR or by any type of credentialism. So anyway, before I kind of end the video 4 more times by talking about something else that I ADHD myself into, thank you guys all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again in the next one. Peace.
And he's not wrong about trimming down these studios to make them more viable, easier, more streamlined for them to put out their games, so they're not like having to go through a million people. But he's not addressing the underlying rot of DEI and Bridge that caused a lot of these problems in the first place. Until that is addressed, that absolutely needs to be addressed and dealt with. And until it is, even with a severely trimmed down workforce, a slimmed down studios that are more streamlined, if that rot still remains, you're going to get the same results. Unfortunately, it's not going to change. It's just they're going to be able to make the games faster because there's not so much bureaucratic red tape to go through. But the games themselves may not change if you don't get rid of the DEI, and if you don't get rid of the Bridge, and if you don't kick SBI to the curb. Until that happens, I'm not confident that we are actually going to see a positive change in the corporate gaming industry. I don't think we will.